Hello and welcome everybody to today's Academy session, SDG Ambition, Your Questions Answered. My name is Pia Haslauer. I'm a coordinator for leadership initiatives at the UN Global Compact, and I have the pleasure of being your host today. So this session is part of a series, part of an Academy series on SDG Ambition, which is the UN Global Compact's new initiative that aims to challenge and support companies in first setting ambitious corporate goals and targets to address some of these, some of the world's most pressing challenges, and then second, to accelerate the integration of those same goals and targets into core business processes. And then the new expectations for corporate goal setting that come with that result from that. So yeah, in the first two sessions, we very much focused on the content of SDG Ambition, and we presented on the SDG Ambition benchmarks that represent the line in the sand against we are calling on all companies to align their sustainability targets and goals with. So we heard directly from companies and experts on the value and benefits of setting ambitious goals, and then also some of the challenges that by companies in that regard. So I very much encourage everybody who might have missed these sessions to go back right now. Well, not right now, because you're watching this right now, but right after the session or whenever you have time to view these sessions, because they really provide important context and framing for the discussion that we will be having today. So as I said, the last two sessions were very much focused on more of the content and deliverables of the program. And this session is all about the more practical aspects of the SDG Ambition Accelerator, which you will hear all about in just a minute. Before that, a couple of housekeeping rules. This whole session, as the title suggests, is about answering your questions about SDG Ambition. So that means that we very much rely on you to submit any questions you might have. So very much invite you to, at any point during the session, submit your questions in the Q&A or the chat function, and we will have ample time to answer these, and very much look forward to answering as many questions as possible. So with that, let's see the agenda for today. So I'm very much delighted to be joined by Caitlin Casey, Senior Manager for Global Operations here at the Global Compact, and she's going to help me answer some of your questions today. So as you can see from the agenda, we will first start by giving you a brief overview of the SDG Ambition Accelerator. Then we'll cover some of the most frequently asked questions that we normally receive from companies, such as the global local track, who can participate in the workshops, the time commitment involved, and which countries will be offering the program, etc. So then we'll move into open Q&A session where we will be answering your questions. So as I said, very much look forward to answering as many questions as possible. And then finally, we will share some next steps and provide you with information on how to join the SDG Ambition Accelerator and how to join us on this journey to not only raise ambition and deepen integration of the SDGs into core business operations everywhere. So without further ado, over to you, Caitlin, to give us a brief overview of the SDG Ambition Accelerator.
Great. Thank you so much, Pia, and great to be connected with so many of you today. I think probably by now, if you've joined this call, you are hopefully at least a little bit interested in the work of SDG Ambition and perhaps slightly familiar. But just to ground us in what we really are trying to achieve with this program is that we recognize that at the moment we're off track to achieve the goals, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And what we really see a need for, as clearly articulated by the Secretary General on this slide, is that we need to see much higher levels of ambition and acceleration of progress, and indeed a much deeper sort of thinking and approach to how these goals can be tackled by all sectors of society, but really we see great opportunity for business to do this well. So that's really what we're grounded in as we think about SDG Ambition, is how we can enable and challenge companies to rise to that challenge put forward by the Secretary General. The accelerator then itself, Pia, as we look ahead, is an opportunity for companies to think really strategically about those areas where you can have the most impact, and then to set goals aligned with that level of ambition that we hope and expect companies to look towards, inspired by the level of ambition set out by the 2030 agenda. So what that means is that in this 6-month program, we would be expecting companies to look strategically across your impact areas to identify those places where you should really prioritize your efforts, then to work to set targets aligned with the benchmarks that Pia was mentioning before, that line in the sand on what we hope to see, and then to look very critically across the business and your technology landscape about how you can integrate accountability for those goals across the business and have good tracking for the outcomes across your business functions. So that's what we'd be looking at. So then coming out of the program after 6 months, and I already see some questions coming into this end, we would hope that every company would have at least one either new goal or revised goal aligned with that level of ambition set by the 10 benchmarks we've already come out with, coupled with what we call a mapped integration journey that really outlines how you would practically achieve it through that technology landscape, as well as a plan of action for the targets and sub goals that you would be seeing. So that's something that we hope would come out at the end of 6 months, either that you're prepared to share one publicly after that time, or that you're well on track to do so within the first 9 months or so after completing it, and that you can apply that thinking to your operations going forward. Which is quite lofty in 6 months, Pia, so let's it's hard to think about what we would be doing to really accelerate and achieve that within a relatively condensed time period. But we're excited to have this 6-month program that's really oriented around action and behavior change to help you think through how to apply this approach to your company. So just to give you a sense of where we are, we will begin, recruitment and sign up is still ongoing until November 16th, but we'll be starting an onboarding process to help participants familiarize themselves with the content already in November. And then beginning in January, we'll have a 6-month program that focuses on these 3 elements that we talked about. First, how do we understand the landscape of goal setting and the need for ambition as it exists today in the context of the SDGs? And then based on that context, what is the role really for your company to raise that level of ambition and do very specific practical goal setting exercises around those benchmarks. Finally, then we would be looking at this element of integration across business functions. So that coming out of the 6-month period, as we said, you're hopefully prepared to have a goal, at least one goal aligned with these benchmarks.
Great. Thanks so much, Caitlin. And I'm so happy that we just received the exact same question that is our first question on the slide here. So Thais says, my company already has a very ambitious targets in place and we are working on a plan of action. How can we benefit from the accelerator?
Yeah, I don't think that was a planted question. I think that's a real one, but it's exactly what we like to talk about. So I think that as we look at the results of the Global Compact Progress Report that's been coming out annually, what we see is that Global Compact companies overall at both the signatory and participant level are more likely than, understandably, than most companies in the world to have goals that we say are aligned with the SDGs. But what that looks like most commonly today is having done a mapping of your sustainability goals and an indication sort of where your sustainability goals are tagged or to some extent aligned from a subject matter standpoint with the SDGs. We don't see so many examples of companies, even within the Global Compact, who are actually setting goals that are aligned with the level of ambition. So something like no poverty or zero hunger is quite a lofty goal. So that's one piece, is moving beyond the tagging or mapping exercise of your existing goals to the SDGs into goals that are actually indeed aligned with that higher level of ambition. And then the other thing that we see is that even though I think right now something more than 3/4 of Global Compact participants have goals that are in some ways aligned with the SDGs, they say, but fewer than 40% are working to implement those goals across their business function, like the entire business function and value chain. So that's where this program would then hopefully meet that second gap that we see of leveraging the entire business process and function toward the achievement of that goal, helping you think through how that would be. So it could be, and then if you are a company that has indeed set a goal that is fully aligned with the spirit of the SDGs and the benchmarks, I would expect actually that there's still some good opportunities to connect with peers to validate that thinking, to potentially identify if you've done, the other thing that we see is that I think fewer than, again, 40% of our companies have done full impact assessments that incorporate human rights across all of the 10 principles. And that process often will reveal other types of topics that you may want to prioritize. So all to say that we think, looking at the results of our annual surveys, that this really fills quite a serious area that companies are looking for support on, even where they do already have some goal.
Yeah, no, that's great, Caitlin. Thanks so much. And maybe now let's include the opposite question. So if a company is just getting started in their journey on making progress on the Sustainable Development Goals and don't currently have any corporate targets that are aligned with the SDGs, can they still participate in the SDG Ambition?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually, I mean, I think it's really exciting, because one thing that we would think about in terms of that need to accelerate progress is that so often I think we all know, working in the space, that we have goals that are really incremental. And what we're trying to see is what are the things that we can be doing that are going to jumpstart progress and really accelerate the impact and the achievement of the goals. So I would say that there's no reason to wait to do this type of thinking for your own company. You don't need to do something small and then as a launch pad to ambition. We can just get started at the outset with applying this SDG Ambition approach. So I would say it's great no matter where you are in the journey. And you would then be connected with peers who are sort of at the same place as you are. Try to work through it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Caitlin, for so clearly articulating that given the urgent nature of the SDGs, this program is really applicable to all types of companies, no matter where they currently are on their sustainability journey, as we like to say. So I have already seen, and thanks so much for everybody submitting the questions. Please keep submitting them. As I said, we'll have so much time to answer them at the end of this. So yeah, very encouraged to see that so many people are submitting questions. And I've already seen a couple of questions on the difference between the global and local track, and this is exactly what I'm gonna talk about right now. So what is the difference? We do have a global and a local track for the SDG Ambition Accelerator. So first, we have that in-country track, which is available in 29 countries and will be run and hosted by our local networks across the world. So this in-country track will be facilitated in local language and in local time zone. And then it will offer a series of on-demand and live sessions, a lot more hands-on support, a little bit more of hand-holding for the in-country track, more interactive workshops, and that kind of peer-to-peer networking that you get, because these companies will then be, be participating with companies in their own country. So they'll be paired up with companies in their own country. So really, participants of the in-country track will get access to the global track sessions and the in-country sessions. So kind of best of both worlds, so to say. But since we did not want companies that are located in countries where we currently do not have a local network running the program for next year to miss out on the program, we have created the global track, which will be facilitated in English, and it will offer the very same curriculum content as the in-country track, delivered through a series, again, of on-demand and live sessions, but global sessions. So this global track will be available only in countries where there is currently not a network running it, running the program. So yeah, very much, good for you to participate in the global track if you're in a country where there is no network running it, as far as you can, you're sufficient in English. But since you're joining this session, I'm sure you are. So one question that always comes in.
Yeah, sorry, you go on.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to this end too, and then we can go into the networks. I think we're getting a number of questions in the chat about who the program is available to within the Global Compact Network, or the universe. This is a program that's open to signatories or participants in the Global Compact. So that would be anyone, ideally, and for the most part, with no additional fee attached. In most contexts, this is going to be offered inclusive of the signatory and participant fee that you would already be paying. In very few networks, there's a nominal fee that is being charged, but that's on a network by network basis for the in-country track. And again, that's the minority of networks. If you are a participant in the global level that doesn't engage yet, but at the local level, but you are based in a country where, as you'll see on the next slide, the network is running it, we would ask that you be a member of the network as well in order to participate in that in-country track. So if there's any questions to that end, we can connect you in with the local network to help build that relationship and to help you to participate in that local context.
Yeah, no, totally. Thanks so much, Caitlin. And yeah, for the in-country track, very much is one of the eligibility criteria that you're a member and engaged with the network, but we're happy to connect you. And then just on the cost of the program, because I know we get this question quite a lot from our 29 networks that are currently, that are running the program this year. Only 2 are charging very small cost covering fees. And as Caitlin said that these fees are really just to cover the cost of running the program. But we're very happy that in most countries, the programs will be run for free. So yeah, one question that comes in very much hand in hand with the global local track question is, which networks are participating in SDG Ambition in 2021? So here you can see the countries which will be running the program in 2021. But as I said, don't worry if your country is not on the list, because you can still participate in the global track. All right, so let's move on into our section on the most frequently asked questions on the participation of the program. So Caitlin, who from a company can actually participate in the program?
Great. So yeah, we ask for 2 company representatives. If you move to the next slide, you can see. So one of those people should be sort of a sustainability decision maker, someone that's connected in and very familiar with that strategy. And the second person we think would be really helpful to have is someone who's well versed in the technology landscape of the company. So someone who has insight into the platforms that you're being used, the data sources that you have, and sort of has insights into what's working well, maybe where some gaps from an information standpoint exist to help bring together that sustainability and information piece that we are so often talking about. Then the other person that's really important to highlight would be a champion for the program. We think, since we're talking about high-level corporate goals, it's important that there be buy-in for them at the highest level of the organization, so that we're not just one person sitting alone in isolation in their office, but really that there's a potential for participating in the program to generate the type of change that we're seeking. So we would like everyone participating to also have identified a champion who's either C-suite or a CEO themselves in some companies, who can champion the program. We have previously gotten some questions about if you yourself are C-suite or CEO, if you can participate. If that's what makes sense for your company, absolutely. There's no, that champion and the participant can be the same. What we're asked very commonly is if more than 2 people can participate, and for we do have a firm limit on 2 because of like navigating the pods and the workshops and being able to create sort of the culture of learning and sharing and getting to know your peers in that way. That's sort of what we've identified as the manageable amount. But we do want to reassure you that we recognize that there's a lot of people in many organizations who are going to be critical to bringing SDG Ambition to life. So a piece of the program, especially as we're talking about the goal setting, is on building internal buy-in and engaging stakeholders from within the company across different business units, whether it be the finance office or marketing, or, we know that there's many, depending on the organization, there's many different players that would be important to engage. So there's going to be really specific and tactical approaches that we work through together in the accelerator to help you bring those best colleagues on board as well. But that's why we ask for just the two company representatives. The other thing that we have been getting asked about a lot that I think we should just discuss here is if a company can be participating in multiple countries, or if a subsidiary can take part. And I think what's really important to just bear in mind is that we would like to have people involved who do have that avenue or channel into the goal setting process. So for example, and so it's hard for us to give a blanket yes, no to that question, because in some companies or structures, a subsidiary is indeed going to have their own goal setting process or practice that would make a lot of sense for them to feed in and engage on their own. We then would also expect that subsidiary is a participant of a network if they're participating in the in-country track. So where there are, and I can think of some other multinationals where it's similar, where you have country offices that also have their own ownership over goal setting processes, where it could make sense to participate in multiple countries. But if you're an organization where the goal setting is really centralized to one country office, we would ask that the participants, or recommend that the participants sit in that office, and then you loop in other colleagues who are relevant throughout the 6-month accelerator. The other question that I see coming in frequently here is just the difference, as we've been saying, participant, signatory, member of the Global Compact, and who's able to participate. So anytime we're talking about a participant or signatory of the Global Compact, that's one tier, or in some ways what you could call a member. Those are companies that have actively signed up and committed to the 10 principles of the Global Compact and are already within, our members of the Global Compact. Within that, we have the 2 tiers, signatory and participant. This program is indeed open to all signatories and participants. So you don't need to be a participant, as is the case for other programs we know. This one is open. If you are not yet a part of the Global Compact officially, then you would have to join the Global Compact first, which is a process. We can perhaps share the link in the chat to learn more about joining and the current fee structure associated with signatories and participant tiers there, if one of our colleagues could add that link for how to join.
Great, thanks so much, Caitlin. Many questions coming in that we will have, time later to answer. But maybe for now, one of the questions that we get all the time is, what is the time commitment involved in joining the SDG Ambition Accelerator?
Great. So this again is going to look a little bit different depending on every company and where you need to invest a little bit more time or not on some of the takeaway or self-guided activities. But what we can say in general is that for the 3 modules that we're talking about, you could expect to have about 2 on-demand sessions that you can watch on your own time of about an hour each. So that's about 2 hours. We expect to have on average 2 to 3 workshops or meet your pod breakout sessions that would likely also be about an hour to an hour and a half. So that's another 5 to 6 hours per module. And then where there's some distinction and hard to say exactly is that and how much time you would spend on that self-guided take-home work. But I would say on average, as we look at it, it would be probably about 3 hours per module. So I think that comes out to about 30 hours over the course of 6 months on average, based on those on-demand and on-demand sessions, and then live workshops or engage with your pod sessions, plus then the take-home activity. That's in the 6 months that the accelerator would be running. In the lead up to the program, the onboarding that would start in November, we'll again have 1 onboarding session of about 45 minutes that you can watch on demand. We'll encourage 1 meet your pod workshop, so that's about another hour, and then you'll be given access to all of the resources to read, the guides, an e-learning tool that takes about half an hour. So you could sort of imagine spending about 3 hours in preparation over the course of November and December once you've signed up to participate.
Great, thanks so much, Caitlin. So now we open it up to the many questions we have already received. Still keep encouraging you to keep submitting your questions. Maybe let's start with the first one, which is a question that we get very frequently. What's the connection between the SDG Action Manager and SDG Ambition?
Yeah, that's great. So if we think through, the SDG Action Manager is a great tool that exists to assess where your company could have or does currently have the most impact on the SDGs, and it begins to point towards some activities that you could be doing to address those. That is really found, having that strong understanding of your current impact is the foundation for SDG Ambition. We think that if you don't have clarity on your current state, then we're not going to succeed in identifying those areas for high impact, identifying which benchmarks you should be targeting, and doing a serious job of setting goals aligned with those priority benchmarks. So for that, we would say that it's important for companies, or a good opportunity if you're interested in the SDG Action Manager would be to take that at the beginning of the program, to have that landscape view of your current impact. And it's something that we'll encourage. We have the SDG Action Manager and a couple of other tools that can serve to provide that insight.
Great. So another question that is very important that we just got was, what if we're all in home office because of this pandemic? And maybe we should have been a little bit more clear from the outset, but for the first round of this program, we will run it completely virtually. So all the sessions, on demand and live sessions, will be run completely online, completely virtually. And then as this program is hopefully run for many more years, we are hoping that maybe in round 2 and 3, we will be able to offer that in-person experience, later on, but for the time being, due to the current situation, the whole program is going to be virtual. So then we have another question on where to sign up, and we will include that link in the chat, just in a couple minutes, but you'll also see it on the slides later on.
It's there in the chat now, I see too.
Okay, perfect. So then we have another question. Apart from attending the training sessions, are there any other commitments or obligations that companies participating in the Accelerator program must assume?
That's a good one. So I think there would be the expectation that you participate live, you take the on-demand sessions, and that you're doing that takeaway self-guided work so that you can actively participate. Then what we would say, there's not a firm commitment, but we do hope and expect that every company who has completed SDG Ambition will be able, as we said, to set a goal, at least one goal aligned with the benchmark within, we hope, the first 6 months after completing the program. So it's not a requirement, but it's something that we'll really be driving towards, and we think that the accelerator is designed to enable. That's really the key outcome that we're driving towards, is helping and challenging companies to be able to share that goal.
Great. We do have another question here. Companies located where a local network exists and is running the program, can I still attend the global track? And
yeah, that's a great question. And another, we should have been clear, I think, about what the virtual model means is really, and essentially everyone that participates will be signed up sort of automatically into the global track. That's sort of the on-demand content that you'll be getting. You'll have access to all of those resources. What I then see is that the in-country track is a real value add on top of it to connect with your peers who are also a part of the local network, to get the lens of your local country context into the work, and to have that sort of additional camaraderie and peer-to-peer learning that the in-country track would offer. But essentially, that's one great value of the virtual learning, and something that we're trying to really see as a benefit of COVID that we couldn't have expected when we first started designing this program in January and even last year, was this opportunity to build a global network of companies that are taking on this work.
Great, thanks so much. So another comment, very interesting session, thank you. Are there any industry-specific benchmarks, for example, the automotive industry or consumer products or pharma?
So at this time, we are focusing on there aren't the specific industry lenses planned for this first round, but where we can bring together industry peers, I think we'll want to have some of those pod conversations together to help you assess what's more specific in your landscape. And then there are some sessions, as you see, Accenture is one of our partners. They've done a lot of industry specific work in the past. So some of those on-demand sessions may indeed bring a little bit of that lens. But what we anticipate is that based on the results of this first round, we'll have ideally future resources that leverage the learning from participants in this first round to clarify or bring new examples that are more industry specific going forward. So I would say a flavor of industry specific content, but that's not a core feature of what we'll be doing in the first round.
Yeah, thank you. So we have another question here that I think we've answered at least partly already, but great to reiterate. So my company is a member of the UN Global Compact at the headquarter level. How can I participate locally at the affiliate level?
Yes, so the way to become a member of a network looks a little bit different. For the most part, you actually, it could just be us making the introduction for you. Some networks do have a small membership fee to actively participate in the network level activities. So if you are, that's something that we are, and your client engagement managers, we're happy to connect you too, but if you need help being introduced to your local network or similar, that's something that we're happy to support.
Yeah, great.
Most networks, I'll add, most networks have web pages and contact information also. So that's, hopefully is not too difficult to find.
So Caitlin, what tools will the Accelerator be using? Would you offer any tech platform to support the initiative?
I will, and I think there's a couple of different ways to interpret this question, so I will answer in a couple of ways. The first is that we are going to be using the same learning management system that the Academy is currently hosted on. So if you are familiar with the Academy, you'll know Docebo, where you will actively be able to see your progress through the course, chat with other participants, and sort of hopefully recreate some of that live experience that will be missing in the virtual track. If your question is more on the tech side of things, I will say that this is anyone with any technology platform is able to participate. If you're an SAP client, Microsoft, Salesforce, or right now if you're just leveraging, Excel to manage your data, I think we're going to be working to accommodate the full scope of that work. We won't be recommending or promoting any particular digital platform, but we may, where there are specific software solutions that we could perhaps assess and help you identify those, but there's no technology requirement or platform requirement built into participating in the program.
Yeah, thanks again, everybody, for keeping to submit your questions. It's great to see so many questions coming in. Just one point, if you're raising your hand, since this is a webinar, it is a little bit more complicated to unmute you. So we ask you to type your questions out in the Q&A or in the chat. One other interesting question that I think we have, talked about a little bit, touched upon a little bit, is if you don't have any goals of yet, but you're in the development of an ESG strategy, could you still do this program and incorporate your new thinking, into my company's future ESG strategy?
Yes, I think that's a great opportunity. I think, as we said before, our goal would be that every company begin to embrace this thinking around the need for higher levels of ambition and how to integrate it across your company. I think the timing could probably not be better if that's something that you're just embarking on now. No reason, as we said before, to take an incremental approach at the beginning and then try to upgrade. We can just leapfrog and start moving in this direction from the start.
Yeah, and one more question that I see coming in now is, how does this relate to GRI or any other, sustainability reporting requirements?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this isn't specifically a reporting platform in any way, but obviously, since we're looking at information, we would hope that the learning and takeaway, both around goal setting and then around different ways to think through tracking progress and building accountability for the goals, would help inform and make more robust your reporting practices, no matter what you're doing. As many know, the Global Compact's own COP is under strategy review right now, and there are different KPIs and things that are under consultation for that will certainly feed into this. But again, in general, there's no barrier to entry around reporting, nor requirement as such, but instead we would hope that the outcomes would well inform your future reporting around your goals and the progress to achieve them.
Yeah, and I think it's just important to note that we're not, trying to reinvent the wheel here, and we know that the sustainability reporting landscape is very crowded as is. So, very important to note that this program is very much focused on internally managing and tracking your sustainability targets, which obviously is not unrelated to reporting, but that's not what the initiative is about. So do you offer a certification or otherwise endorse or sanction organizations?
That typically has, yeah, so the Global Compact typically does not offer certificates. That's been, or certifications as such. So that's not a key design feature of the program. But I think we're happy to, I'm trying to remember the phrase, Alyssa, if you can maybe even type it into the chat, where we can, if important, we can create like certificates of completion or similar that indicates, thank you, yes, a certificate of completion that reflects the time and learning spent doing the program.
Yeah, and I just see a very interesting question coming in. Can you elaborate a little bit more about the Accelerator program? How many on-demand, how many live session will this entail?
Yes, exactly. So going back to that time commitment for each, so there's 3 modules that we see. The first on sort of understanding the need for ambition, new expectations for business around goal setting, understanding the SDG Ambition benchmarks. That's the first module. The second module is focused on goal setting as a business practice and how tactically, from a process standpoint, you should be creating your goals aligned with the benchmark. And then the third looks at that integration piece. For each of those, it's going to look a little bit different for each of them, but what I would say, like the first is a little bit lighter in terms of content. It'll be a little bit shorter. And then the third on integration is a little bit longer. But in general, they said there's 1 to 2 on-demand sessions that you watch on your own time. And then somewhere around 1 to 3 workshops or pod breakout sessions. So where you would be connecting with your colleagues on the work that you've been doing. And then those self-guided takeaway activities, depending on the content that we would be looking for in each of those modules. So maybe 2 self-guided activities where you would then come to the workshops with the results to share with your colleagues, get feedback, and learn. That's on average.
Yeah, thank you. So we just got another question. What does a company do to declare its desire to participate in the program? Do we write an official letter to our network? So we have the link to sign up. You sign up online. That link is in the chat, but we will, keep showing it, keep putting it in the slides, keep showing it in the chat and on the slides. Do we have to have 2 people that are participating in these workshops, or can it be only 1 person?
It depends on the company. If you think that you as 1 person have both the insight into the sustainability goal setting strategy and the information systems, I think that can work. Every company looks a little bit different. So it's up to you, but that's sort of how we envision the teams to be set up for success. But we sort of, I would say, leave it to you to determine that it can be, that it can be achieved.
And what are the roles of Accenture, SAP, and 3M in this program?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I saw others asking how facilitation will be going, things like that. So yeah, as we said before, we're really delighted to have the partnership and expertise of SAP, Accenture, and 3M. So for those, we're delighted that we have their support, especially of Accenture, in facilitating some of the content for this first round for both the global and in-country tracks. And then, of course, SAP is a world-leading expert in systems integration and thinking. So they'll be able to provide their expertise in that regard. And 3M is a leader in sustainability goal setting, and we're delighted that we can use their example and share their leadership as relevant. But we do have that facilitation support. Also, of course, for those in the in-country track, the local networks will play a really key role in shaping your participant experience and facilitating your participation throughout the accelerator.
Yeah, we just got another interesting question on the on-demand sessions, and in what languages will we offer the on-demand sessions?
Great question. So this is, right now, we will be offering it, Pia, please also correct me, almost for sure in English, Spanish, Portuguese, for sure. We hope also then Russian.
Yep.
And
that's it.
Great. So depending on, that's based on participation of networks as well as companies signing up. If we get a slew of companies from another language, I think that primarily speak another language, we can explore whether we would be able to offer it in more languages, but that's what's planned to date.
If a company is not ready to participate today, but may be in a position to join in the future, are there opportunities to participate in the future round of the program?
Yeah, so this is, and I saw the question come through too, this is our first round. We're excited. This is one of our global impact initiatives. So, you know, the first round of the Young SDG Innovators program ran last year. They're in their second round now, and Target Gender Equality is in their first round. They're a couple months in now, and all have been, I think the outcomes so far are really exciting. So this is our first round of SDG Ambition. And then we will anticipate running a second round, probably with signups beginning again in the fall of 2021 or late summer, based on the learnings for this one. So there will certainly be more opportunities to participate. For the second round, we would anticipate additional networks also offering it, but we're excited for this round and expecting quite a number of participants.
And with regards to IP and confidentiality about the company information, will the UNGC and the delivery partners be using that data and information shared?
We do not have any plans to be using the information shared in any way, nor do our partners. That's not it. And then every participant, we have an agreement around that we would ask every participant to sign, I believe is the process, that also protects the confidentiality of information that you would be potentially privy to by participating in those peer-to-peer workshops. So the whole thing should ideally be non-competitive, and not data-oriented from our side as well. What we will expect to do from the Global Compact side is to track progress of companies that are participating. So we wouldn't be taking your data as such, but we would be following up with you to see how it's going as you're working to set the goals. You know, we would like to be tracking the success of the program in terms of generating more of these goals that are aligned with the benchmarks, and then seeing progress made towards them. So that would all be conversations that or sort of surveys or other data collection means that we would ideally have over time, but always with your permission and targeted just towards tracking the outcomes of the program itself.
And related to this, how can companies themselves communicate about their participation in the program?
That's a great question. Well, we do have a number of social media assets. If you want to encourage, you know, already now encourage peers to be participating in the program, we would encourage you to share that message, and we can work to even make that more publicly available, how you could do that. And then over time, as I said, the COP process is currently ongoing, but we do anticipate, so I won't get into specifics now as it relates to that, but we do anticipate over time having a platform where we can be publicly sharing, or companies can publicly share their goals that are aligned with these benchmarks, where we can profile them and, as I said before, track progress over time to really help build momentum, and ideally like a snowball effect of seeing more and more companies that are setting these ambitious goals being, you know, first we'll have some first movers, but then ideally as this becomes more common practice, ideally seeing it become something that all Global Compact companies are doing and inspiring others. So that's something that we hope will be coming before the end of the Accelerator, this first round of the Accelerator.
Yeah, and then we have another question that we actually get very frequently as well, about the role of that second representative to help with systems integration. Do they need to have any previous understanding or any knowledge of CSR?
They don't. I actually think this is a good opportunity to bring someone into the sustainability landscape that maybe hasn't even been before. So it's certainly not a requirement that they be familiar. And they don't need to even have a deep technical expertise in every technology system that the company has in play. I think ideally they should know sort of the major platforms that are being used, and then sort of use that knowledge to help identify potential information gaps, or think about different solutions that we could target going forward.
Yeah, and then we got another very interesting question that we get quite frequently. Is this program more for larger companies or also for small, medium enterprises who are interested in
great question. And I apologize that we actually didn't talk about that in the who should participate, because that is an important one. This program is very actively designed for companies of all sizes. Something that we say very frequently in the Global Compact is that this type of thinking around ambition is relevant no matter your size, no matter your sector, no matter your geography. Every company should be doing this challenging thinking around where they can maximize their impact, where they can minimize their negative impact, and then setting their level of ambition towards what we really think we need to address the world's greatest challenges. So the scale of impact that a company that's large or small could have is obviously different, but it's the type of thinking is universal and applicable no matter who you are. I think what we'll see is that, and what we already have in mind as the program is designed, is that SMEs versus large companies might have different challenges along the way that we'll want to address. So where a large company maybe has already done more work on assessing their impact, and an SME would want to, I'm speaking in hypotheticals, need to spend a bit more time doing that first impact assessment. We also know that an SME has the potential to, possibly be more nimble in looking at that integration piece because it's smaller, whereas a large company, you're pulling threads from potentially all around the world, really big business units, that could actually be more time consuming. So that's where I said too, that the self-guided activities, there's not a universal way for us to say what the time commitment is, because at different pieces of the program, it could be more or less challenging depending on your company structure. But all to say, this is designed for companies of all sizes to really think about and embrace the level of ambition that we're seeking.
Yeah, so I'm looking at time and I see we're slowly running out of time. So this is, just choosing the last couple of questions. Can you talk about the local network's level of involvement in shaping the local workshops?
Yes. Shout out to all of our local networks who are on the call here today. They are wonderful. And as you guys, as those of you who have engaged with local networks before know, they are very well versed in putting on great workshops very often. So what the concept for SDG Ambition overall is that we can create a really scalable program that networks all around the world can pick up and run. So the networks are responsible for participant engagement and management. They'll be your main point of contact for signing up and onboarding, scheduling your workshops. You'll really be in touch with them in that regard. And then it may look a little bit different depending on each network's own capacity and expertise in-house, if the facilitation is led directly by a network or with the support of Accenture or Accenture or another partner with the network feeding in. But if you're in the in-country track, your main point of contact will be through the networks.
And then one very quick clarifying question regarding the team structure. Just the 2 representatives are expected to attend the sessions, not the champion, correct?
That's correct, yes.
The answer is yes.
We'll have active and ongoing communication between the representatives and the champion to, again, as we said, build that internal ownership for the outcomes as it relates to corporate level goals.
Oh man, I just lost my question here. Damn it. There you go. So this is a question that many of you seem to be interested, so many comments on that question. How are company contributions to the SDGs being quantified at the country level so that you can measure the private sector contribution to the overall SDG progress? And is the UNGC responsible for creating this data? And does the Accelerator Program provide this data?
Wow, 2 minutes left and you're really going for some of the existential challenges that face the achievement of the SDGs. Okay, so overall, that is clearly a major challenge that countries all around the world have. I think it's important to remember that the SDGs are indeed owned by the member states of the UN, so governments. So governments own their country results frameworks, and it's at a country by country level that progress towards the SDGs to date is measured. That being said, we at the Global Compact would love to better capture the impact of Global Compact companies on the SDGs, and in that way I think that SDG Ambition does serve to bring some harmonization around how we can talk about what companies are aiming to achieve that we track over time. There's still, as we said before, some harmonization around KPIs that are under review for the COP, and those type of challenging questions I think that we're all continuing to grapple with are really central to what we think about as an organization very often. So hopefully that's a byproduct of SDG Ambition, is that we have some common language that can be used to talk about company contributions to the SDGs.
Great, thanks so much, Caitlin. And in the interest of time, I think we have to move on, but it's so great to see all the many questions that came in and the interest around this initiative. Yeah, thanks so much for joining me today, Caitlin.
And I answer just one other question, sorry, that I see, because I just really want to be sure people understand the global local track that
Oh yeah, sure.
There's one last thing. If you're in the global track, there are also workshops for you. So you have on-demand sessions and workshops. It just is facilitated at the global level. And there could be some additional ones that happen in the local context. So I think that's where, so you still do have that active participation. It's still, and it's done virtually, but there's just that added level of peer-to-peer learning that comes into play in the in-country context. Sorry.
Exactly.
There are so many questions. I could just stay here and answer all of these questions. So maybe we can flag that we'll update our FAQ too, based on some of these.
Exactly. On the website that you can see on the screen here, unglobalcompact.org/SDG Ambition, all lower caps. I learned today if you do it in all caps, this website is not going to work. But you can go to this website. There is going to be an FAQ document. As Caitlin said, we will be aiming to update it with some of the questions we receive on this call today. And you can also sign up for the program under this link. And we really hope that now you and your audience will be able to join us. And as we said, through the SDG Ambition Accelerator, we really hope to encourage thousands of companies around the world to step up and, as we say at the Global Compact, turn commitment into action and to align with the SDG Ambition benchmarks. So please go to that website for more information and to sign up. And we hope that this session was helpful for you to determine if your company is ready to raise its ambition. And as I said, go to our website. The deadline to sign up is November 16th. So deadline is definitely coming up, but you do have a little bit of time left to sign up. And we hope that you will be able to join us in this journey and moving beyond incremental progress and towards the transformational progress that we need to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Thanks so much, Caitlin, and thanks so much, everybody, for joining.
Thank you all.